just doesn't like people.
Speaking of which, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attacker Productions. Today, I'm back over once again buying Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
And his, well, I can't say that it hasn't been 30 seconds yet, his cat.
You can say mouse.
His mouse.
Yeah. Alright, you can go.
As you can see, we decided to go to Jimmy's house for a bit because the shop is packed because of Black Friday.
Yes, sir.
Even though it's Saturday. So, hope you enjoyed the quality of light today. Let's get into the profile. Oh yeah, it's Mechikabura. There's buttons. Click them for a reason.
Yeah, it's Mechikabura. So we were a little light on videos this week due to our filming circumstances. So kind of been toying around with this deck a little bit more lately with the new promos. Been taking it to our just like little casual hangouts to test and whatever. I don't think it's super competitive, but I've been really enjoying playing Mechikabura again. It's always been my pet deck. But we'll get right into it. So Mechikabura, if you don't know, he's a wish leader. So on attack, he's going to search out 2 Dragon Balls from deck and or life. When you have all the 7 Dragon Balls in your drop area, you can draw 1, untap 1, and then warp one of your opponent's battle cards from their drop area. On the backside, you draw on attack, and then activate main. You can bottom deck 1 to gain control of one of your opponent's battle cards with each cost 4 or less, which is incredible. Or you can warp your Dragon Balls and gain triple attack, which is kind of crazy. Alright. And this auto is not once per turn, so when you do the triple attack, you will get to draw 3 off of it, which is very good. Getting into the main deck, of course, we have the Dragon Ball spread, Dark Empire balls, and then your standard balls. So Dark Empire balls, you will drop a Dark Dragon Ball or a Demon God from your hand, draw 2, and then warp 1 from your opponent's drop area. And then the Yearning for the Dragon Balls, you will activate, your opponent will warp one of their 1-drops from their battle area. So in some matchups, this is very relevant. You can warp out your opponent's like starter pieces, their whatever, their searchers that they played on turn 1, get rid of their combos and get their drop area buffed up for your other plays. But most of the time, you're just going to play the Yearning, which is free if your leader card is a Mechikabura, so with the Wish skill. So these are the ones you're going to be activating the most, and you're just going to be discarding these balls to get draws and warp out your opponent's drop area. Going into our battle cards. 3 of the Shroom. Pretty much all these battle cards will play exactly the same way. With 1 black energy, if you have 2 or more Dragon Balls in your drop area, you can search out 2 balls and put them in the drop and play this card. You don't have to do the Dragon Ball part, but sometimes you will, just so you can get a guaranteed awaken. And then on attack, you will warp 1 from your opponent's drop area and then warp a 3 or less off the field. Great, because you can get multiple uses out of this auto, unlike some of the other cards. The better half, the Salsa. So Salsa plays exactly the same way. On play, your opponent will warp 1 from their hand, and then they draw a card. So it's not hand destruction, but can be very annoying to keep warping cards out of your hand. Even though you get them replaced, you sometimes want to keep your hand and not replace it. And then on attack, you will draw 1 and then warp something out of your opponent's drop area. And something to note is that it will negate the auto. Or you can't activate autos on copies of this card for the turn. So once you turn this card sideways, all of the autos for the rest are gone. So if you want to play multiple of these to make your opponent warp and draw, you have to do them before turning 1 sideways. An important note, it's not super relevant, but it does suck when you draw a Salsa off of your Salsa swing, and then you're like, well, damn, I want to play that and make them warp another card. Toa plays exactly the same way. She's a blocker. She will warp a battle card off the field and then warp something from the drop area. Or my bad. You would warp a card from the hand and then draw 1 and then warp something off the field with the same activate. This card does not see as much play, but the removal is very nice, and you can use it to proc another card in the list, which we will get to. 2 of Kingdom Lost. Double Strike, unique barrier. Plays for 2 if your opponent has 3 or more cards in their warp, so that's why you want to be warping a lot of cards. On play, you can warp a battle card or warp a card from your opponent's hand, so this is where you're getting a little bit of hand destruction. And then while this card is in rest mode, if your opponent attacks your leader card, they have to warp a card out of their hand. So this card is where you get a little bit of hand destruction. Again, this deck is not completely themed around hand destruction, so that is not your win con, but it's just a minor annoyance, and one of the many things that this deck has access to. The newest addition to the deck, well, not really newest, but one of the new additions, is the Supreme Kaya Time promo. This card is bonkers. It is a 10k servant, plays for 1, just like the other effects. And then on play, or when you gain control of one of your opponent's battle cards, your opponent warps one out of their hand. So it's like insult to injury. When you take one of their cards, they also lose the hand value. It is a 20k swing. It will not restand, but that's not a super big deal. Usually what I like to do with these is just throw it out, and then I can turn one, or I leave one active, so my opponent can't attack into it, which we really don't want to attack into a 20k base. We don't have any Overlord in the list. I've tried to fit some in, but just everything felt bad. Most of the time I just like letting this just set on my board and do nothing. But it is a big 20k attacker if you want it to be, which is fantastic and exactly what the deck needed. This card is awesome for this deck. Then the big Mechis, big double striker. I find myself playing this card a little bit more than I used to. But essentially it's a board wipe, and you get to take 2 of your opponent's battle cards from their warp, and that's for 4 energy. Which is not bad. You essentially get 3 attacks for 4 energy, which is a lot worse ways to spend that energy. Super combos, Toa. She's a sparking 5, and she's a base 10k, so you're gonna have 5 cards in your drop area no matter what. I would like to be able to run the Vegeta just because of extra draw, but I prefer Toa, and just, I don't know, it's Toa, and it fits the deck. Supreme Kai, if you or your opponent have 3 or more cards, she becomes 3 or more cards in the warp. She becomes a 1-drop. She negates the attack, and then on play, she will warp out one of your opponent's battle cards until the end of the turn. So dual negate. You can run the blocker negate, but I also like having a battle card option just for combo. One of my absolute favorite cards. I'm really excited to see the collector's version of this card like in person, because I don't know if I'm the only one, but I think the collector's volume 3 cards, like the renders, just look like ass. They look like cheap, like knockoff Pokemon foiling.
I mean, the biggest example was Secret Rares, this set. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Secret Rares look great as a render. They look 10 times better in person. So I can only imagine what these alt arts are gonna look like.
Like I don't like the way the alt arts look in the render. So I'm hoping to be surprised by it. But I'm glad that this card's getting a little bit of love in there, because I absolutely love this card. 2 Darkness Judgment. This can also be a negate, but I usually just use this as a bean. You can just activate battle for free, give your leader card plus 5k. Again, can be used double use on this, which is always good, but I usually just use it as a bean. 2 Power Burst. I will probably just go to a token negate, because there are some 1-drops you can pick back up with this, but the 1-drops are not super relevant to keep cycling, so this might become just a token negate. 1 max power, just because good removal and also a negate. Super Kamehamehas, you need some sort of counterplay, and Super Kamehameha is one of the best ones. Warp of 3 or less coming in, or is it a 4 or less? 3 or less. I don't know why halfway through that I was like, I'm reading this card wrong. If your life is at 4 or less, you can activate it for free by picking up a life. Most of the time you're going to have energy open, so just tap 1 for it. Good against floodgates, especially when you build a little bit of a board, or you pop your leader effect. You don't want to get floodgated, so use this on it. Petrification, because this card is busted as shit. Just negate, discard a card, say that card doesn't exist anymore. That's exactly what this card says. Don't read into it anymore. So this card is poutine, but what it's actually supposed to be is the black Gohan rare. Shout out to Aaron for forgetting to throw the cards in Matt's mailbox. I love you, Aaron. But the Black Gohan Rare, if you don't know what it does, on the combo you can tap one and warp a 4 or less, which is great when you put it in your Z energy. Spoiler, there's no Z deck I have got built for this because there's just not a lot of really good ones. You can probably just throw in like the basic stuff like the Vegeta. You probably throw the Demigra into here, but just nothing I played made me want to put Z battle cards in this deck. But the other effect, if your leader card is black, when this card is in the drop area, if your life is at 4 or less, you can discard one and then crit one and then negate the attack. So it's almost like the Brainwash No More Saiyan, which is also in this deck, but for free, and you get a battle card in rest mode, which is fantastic. All the Gohan rares are worth picking up, and if you can get them cheap, get them. And if you already have them, just hold on to them because they're staples. They're going to be running like every deck. You can run this card over the Gohan Rare if you don't want to spend the money on it. I don't know what the black one's going for at the moment, but I hate this card. So I don't want to run it anymore. BMS, kind of sneaky right now in this format. There's quite a few decks that are playing cards 15k or less by skill. So if you can get this on board, and in a time where your opponent can't remove it easily, you can really lock out some matchups or just straight up win matchups. I played against Turtle School, and I was able to board 2 of these, and it's just, what are you going to do? Like, you have to spend a lot more resources in Turtle School because a lot of your base evolve targets are free. So this card is just fantastic against some matchups. Catastrophic Premonition, Goku. This card is bonkers in this deck. So if you don't know what he does, he's a double strike base. But every time your opponent draws a card by a skill, he gains 10k power until the end of your next turn. So that's by super combo, card skills, anything of that nature. But you can also force your opponent to draw a card using your Toa and your Salsa. So you can board this, and then board a Salsa or Toa right after it. Your opponent warps one and then draws one, and this card gains 10k. So this card, again, pretty much in most matchups will just stay at like 35,000 the entire game. And then that power will fall back off, but it'll build it right back up in the next turns. If it sticks on the board, you can bring it back with Power Burst to replay it, but most of the time your opponent is very scared of this, and they're removing this over removing your salsas and your shrooms that are going to keep accumulating value. Body Snatcher Ginyu, you can pop a card that you gain control of and play this guy's 20k double striker for free. Not bad for just bottom decking a card off your leader effect. This card is fantastic. One Champa because it's a deck that I built and I cannot play without Champa. Brainwash No More, it's an overrealm, but most of the time I'm just using it for its activate battle. The activate battle is sometimes a trap, but if you play yourself into a good position, this card can win you games because your opponent thinks you're dead to rights, and then you just go, I'll just take the 1 damage from my own effect. Dark Mask King, every single time I want to play this card, I end up losing because I do it. I'm probably just going to cut this card even though it's really, really good. 4 energy, triple striker, it's good. Play the card and not be bad like me. 2 Mirror Unisons, I was running this at 4, but it just feels too slow at the moment. For 3 energy, you can do a lot more with the deck. But I like him too much to cut him. But his +1 will play 2 tokens, which you can do anything with those tokens. You can combo them off, you can swing with them, but they're 5k tokens. One will become a blocker off of the auto, but you kind of want your tokens to stick around so you can use the +1 to draw cards and remove your opponent's battle cards. 20k base, so once he comes down, he's usually pretty sticky. But at higher numbers, I just found him being stuck in my hand, and it kept going to the energy every single time. Shenron, the only thing that's relevant on here is the triple strike. So you give your leader card 10k and triple strike. Follow that up with removing the Dragon Balls. So you have triple strike, triple attack, draw 3 at 25,000, which is really, really nutty. It is a big energy investment, but when it happens, it really happens. It's pretty sick. Now I have two options for Secret Rares. I have a budget option and then a more competitive option in my opinion, but both of these cards are absolutely snapped. Brainwashed is what I've been testing the most. Just recently got an Evil Saiyan. Evil Saiyan is more thematic to the deck in my opinion because it's gaining control of your opponent's cards and all that. Brainwashed is more aggressive because it's a 50k double striker that will floodgate out your opponent. But this card is just nuts. 2 energy, barrier removal. Look at your opponent's life, deal damage to them, gain control of cards, and then also has like a pseudo floodgate effect where every time your opponent plays a card, or once per turn when your opponent plays a card, you just get that card. And I gotta read it again here because I just thought of something. Yeah, so with this secondary effect, if you have your Kai out, when your opponent plays a card, you gain control of it, your opponent will have to discard 1 off the Kai. So that's also a really fun interaction. So if you have Evil Saiyan, I would say run that. If you don't, I'd say run Brainwashed. Don't run this card. I don't know why Steve just threw it at me.
I wanted you to say something about it.
Yeah, don't run that card. Yeah, the card. This card is also fantastic. You can run this card if you want. Run whatever you have. But if you have this, run it. If you don't, buy this one because I think it's cheaper. I think it's like $40, and this card is fucking snapped. And I don't know why people aren't talking about it.
We can't Pan technically steal a card too, just once though.
Yeah, but
It doesn't stop Unison attack.
I mean, it doesn't stop using attacks. But you got Black Smoke now.
No.
Yeah, you got Black Smoke. Everybody run it 4 up in their sideboard.
Like I said, thank you all for tuning in. Keep in mind this buzz up. Feel free to click on the different reason. There's also links. They do stuff. Yay. Man. Fluff out.